You're listening to My First Ride Podcast, episode number 2. Do you remember your first ride? You know, your first mode of transportation that gave you a newfound freedom when you were younger? Stick with me for a few minutes while I go back in time with my guest and explore some great memories. Hello, I'm your host, Gary Neidert, and you're listening to My First Ride Podcast. Today, I'm talking with Jason Marascio. He's an entrepreneur with a couple of businesses that keep him very busy. A few weeks ago, we had the opportunity to talk about cars, and I asked him about his first ride. As he shared, I knew we needed to talk more about his first car and allow me to record a conversation. You're going to enjoy his story of how he bought his first car and what it was. So sit back and listen to my conversation with Jason. So Jason, welcome to My First Ride Podcast. It's great to have you on the program.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me and enjoyed talking to you a few weeks back. And here we are. It's been tough scheduling it, but here we are finally. So
yeah, it's great to have you on here. I can't wait to hear more about your first ride. But first, tell me a little bit about yourself and what keeps you busy these days.
Geez, what doesn't keep me busy? So I have 3 kids. I'm married. One of the kids is out of the house. He's 26. I've got a 13-year-old son and a 6-year-old little girl. So that keeps me busy. Plus we have 2 dogs. Outside of family life, we own multiple real estate businesses. That's what pays the bills. That's what keeps the roof over our head. The real passion is cars, and it's been from an early age. And I also own another company called Texas Show Promoters, where we promote, share, and post any automotive related events, cars, trucks, motorcycles throughout Texas. And I felt that there was a need for auto enthusiasts to find this information in one location versus following a bunch of groups or forums or pages. I just try and take as much of the information as I can and provide it in one location. Started it about 5.5 years ago. It's grown tremendously. It's given us amazing opportunities to throw car shows, host car shows, car meets, cruises, big events at Texas Motor Speedway. So it's been a blessing. And when I started, I had no idea what I was getting into. I'm just thinking I'm starting a social media page, but it evolved into so much more, and it really brings the automotive community together. So I've been blessed for that.
Yeah, so, it's very cool. I don't remember how I came across I came across it on Facebook, but as soon as I did, I went ahead and liked it so I could get the information daily, and so it's been pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot.
Yeah. I used to try to find out the different car shows around the area, and I'd find I Googled it, and there'd be like 3 or 4 different sites that had all the car shows, and they weren't. How can I say this? They weren't put together. They weren't organized as well as I thought they could be.
I agree.
And
that takes a lot of times.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you've got that going with Facebook. So, okay. Now, here's the meat of what I've been looking forward to.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your first car. Tell the story of how that came about.
Well, this is going way back now. So I wasn't the greatest student in class, and my grades weren't so great. So I was kind of a late bloomer getting my driver's license because my parents obviously made me earn everything. I had to pay for my own car, pay for my own driver's education, getting my license, all those things. And I remember having about $1,000 in the bank. I'm 17 years old, and I was doing better in school, so it became that time I was going to start looking for a car. Well, 2 doors down from my house was a 79 Pinto station wagon. I remember it vividly. I mean, excellent condition, yellow and black interior. We're talking immaculate condition. And it had a for sale sign in it for $950. And I told my dad, I said, hey, I have enough in the bank account. I can buy that car free and clear. I don't have to borrow money from you. And he said, a Pinto station wagon? Really? He said, why don't we pick up the Diablo dealer? Now, to all of you who don't know what the Diablo dealer is, the millennials, there used to be a newspaper you could pick up at your local grocery store, right? And out here is probably the Auto Trader. Well, out there it was called the Diablo dealer. And you always had these like little tiny square pictures, one picture of the car, a very tiny description and a phone number. There was no internet. There wasn't, searching Google or Yahoo. So we pick up the Diablo dealer and there was a classic section, and we're just flipping through and he points to the 70 Chevelle. Now, 17 years old back in 1991, 90, I didn't know what a Chevelle was, but it was cool. It looked good in the picture. And this will blow your mind, but the lady was asking $1,900. Running, driving, super clean, air conditioning. You couldn't ask for anything more. So end up calling her, set up a meeting, and we meet at a Shell gas station. I remember this so vividly, and I'm sitting in the backseat of my parents' car, and we pull in, and the lady drives in. I'm like, that is stunning. That is absolutely beautiful.
Love at first sight.
It truly was. Had these Outlaw 2 mags on it. The lady's boyfriend had recently painted it like a pearl white, and the dark green vinyl top was so dark it was almost black. So it just, it was clean, rust free. So I go test drive it. Of course, the more I'm spending time with the vehicle, I'm in love. But mind you, I only have $1,000. So she's asking $1,900. I've got to work some magic here. So we go back to the house, and I can't stop thinking about the car. And I'm talking to my dad, and he always wanted to teach us kids, like, do it yourself. You got to step up and you got to do this. So I ended up, he said, you should call her and just say, I've got $1,400. It's my first car, and, offer her the $1,400. So they were going to make up the $400 difference. Well, this was on a Friday. And she says to me, if this car is here after the weekend, I will sell it to you for $1,400 on Monday. So, of course, I go to school on Monday. I come home, longest day of school ever, because the only thing I can think about is the Chevelle. And my parents tell me that she sold it. She called and she sold it. And I was crushed. It was high hopes. So I remember over dinner time, they were talking about something, just having a conversation about meeting someone or picking up something. And I said, what are you all talking about? And they said, well, you don't want to wait till next week to go pick up your car. So they kind of egged me on, thinking she had sold it. And so I end up getting my first car, 70 Chevelle, for $1,400, running, driving, 307, automatic transmission on the column, AC, beautiful. Like, I mean, I just, I couldn't have asked for a better first car. And I think back, I'm like, wow, if it wasn't for my dad, I could have been driving a Pinto station wagon. Maybe I was a Ford guy, or maybe I would have disliked it so much I would have turned to Chevy anyway. But ever since then, that's truly what got me passionate about cars. And nobody on my parents' side, either parents, are into cars. They don't work on cars. Nobody's a mechanic. Nobody goes to car shows. But that first 70 Chevelle, I'll tell you, I mean, it changed my life, like literally changed my life. I fell in love with that car. I've been loyal to the brand ever since. Our whole family drives Chevys. But yeah, that was my first car.
That's
So,
awesome.
and I still have, this will blow your mind.
Oh man. Very cool.
That's my writing on the article. And
Wow.
I saw when I was 17 years old. And
Wow.
then this is my dad, totally old picture. My dad and I in front of our house.
That is awesome.
And then after the 307 blew a motor, this is my buddy and I, we took over my parents' garage and pulled my first motor at 17.
Wow. What'd you put back in it?
A small block 350, which
Yeah.
didn't last long. I was short on money and probably made some mistakes, So
Wow. How long did you keep the car?
for a couple years, I had it for a couple years, and I graduated high school. And looking back, that's probably one of the biggest regrets, because I hear these amazing stories. Well, somebody's 40 years old, 50 years old, and they still have their high school car. I wish that was me. And I had gone through the first motor, obviously, that came with it, went through the second motor. So it was just sitting there, and money was obviously an issue, getting another motor back in there. I'd graduated high school. I was moving to Wyoming. And so I let the car go. And the unfortunate part is, even if I had the VIN, I know the person I sold it to, they put a big motor in it, and then they wrecked it.
Oh,
So
no.
it ended up going to some salvage yard, probably ended up being parted out. So there's no way to get back that first car.
Yeah.
That's, it's disappointing, but I've had a lot of other Chevelles and El Caminos and Camaros, because I think that's what really, that first car started me on my addiction. And I mean, really it is, because I wasn't into sports or fishing, hunting, or cars. I mean, it was just cars. Everything revolves around cars. So it's been cool.
As we were talking before we started the recording, you'd asked me about my first car. Mine was a Volkswagen convertible. It was green. It was that British racing green with a black top, black interior, chrome wheels and stuff like that. And I just had an absolute blast with that car. Well, when I graduated high school, I started working at TI, Texas Instruments.
Yeah.
And I thought, I want a new car. I want another car.
Yeah.
And so I parked the Volkswagen in the backyard and got an Opel Manta Rally, not the GT, but a Rally.
Yeah.
And it was a great car, but I didn't get one with an air conditioner. So anyway, but I went back within the last couple of years because I still had the VIN number, and the car was so old they don't go back that far with the VIN numbers, and it was it didn't have it only had numbers, and so I was going to see if it was still
you
even
can still find it.
But it's probably crushed and gone, and who knows, maybe I'm driving it in my Escape out there. I don't know, in parts of the Escape, but and I wished I had it back, but not as a daily driver. So what are some more details about the car that you remember?
Gosh, it had forest green interior throughout. It was bench seats. It didn't come factory with AC, but she had this aftermarket under dash mount AC, so it was added on. Underneath the hood looked virtually stock. I remember it having dual exhaust. The Outlaw wheels always stood out. And then I don't think, cosmetically I did anything to it because it was in great shape. I added tires. I did, maintenance stuff. Ended up taking shop in high school. Added the old school pull out tape decks, into the dash. But yeah, it was really just more maintenance. And then when the motor went bad, I ended up buying a motor from somebody. not a lot of history on the motor, more of a junkyard motor, took the time to put it in. And the same issue I was pulling it out for, the motor had the same issue. It had a spun rod bearing, you know? So, and at that time, 17 years old, just lack of experience, swapping motors, but I absolutely love that car.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you know? And I know at some point in time, I would like to get another 70 convertible Chevelle, because that 70 Chevelle, then I had bought a couple convertibles, and I've been buying and selling Chevys mostly for 20 plus years as a hobby.
Yeah.
And some become part of the family. Some stay with us forever. Some we ship down the road, but I'm definitely in search of a decent 70 convertible Chevelle. So it'll happen eventually.
Yeah. I love convertibles. I just so much enjoyed the Volkswagen. The next car that I would like to get, I keep saying this I've been saying it for 10 years, is a Mustang GT convertible. And,
there you go.
I'm not loyal to Chevy or Ford, either one.
Yeah.
And I think the reason for Ford is the Mustang GT convertible is when my daughter turned 18, at the time she was working for Jerry Reynolds, whatever that Ford place was in Garland.
Yeah.
And they let her take home a convertible for the weekend because of her birthday. And I got to drive it.
Yeah.
And so, and up to that point, I'd wanted a motorcycle. You know, I really wanted a motorcycle, but I'm at the age where I've figured out that it's not a matter if, but when, you know, fall over on the bike and something happens.
Sure.
At my age, it's going to take a lot longer to recover. So, and my wife wouldn't get on the back of it.
Yeah.
So I figured, well, I could get a Mustang GT convertible and put the top down, and it almost the same. And so, I'm waiting till that day I can get my Mustang. But
there you go.
Yeah. Well, what's a memory that comes to mind about the car, or some experience you had while owning the car? Something that you did, or maybe a road trip or something like that?
Well, I can tell you I was hell on wheels. I mean, I don't know what it was, and it doesn't matter what you put me in. I enjoy the open road. You know, all my mom's family's from Germany, so I always joke they have the Autobahn over there. I got a little bit of that German Autobahn in my blood.
Yeah.
And so I remember, you know, getting tickets, lots of tickets in that car. I remember taking it to Santa Cruz, and, you know, that's probably a good hour and 30-minute drive, but the drive up there through the windy mountains, amazing. I remember just taking it to like the Friday night hangouts and stuff. And it wasn't fast by any stretch of the imagination, but people were shocked when I took it to shop. They're like, "You picked this up for $1,400?" I'm like, yeah, just, you know, at the right time, at the right place. It just aligned for me. But as far as memories, it was just, you know, being able to go out to lunch with your buddies and just having that freedom. Like the first night as a teenager, you get to go out. Nobody's in the passenger seat with you, mom or dad. Nobody's needing to be there with you, and calling a buddy or two and say, "Hey, I'm going to come pick you up, and we're just going to cruise the strip." No better feeling.
Yeah.
Like it's just amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Man, going up that windy road, that's the one that's right next to the coastline?
Well, that's Highway 1.
Okay.
So, which is beautiful. I've been on that with another vehicle as I was much older. It's a little further away.
Okay.
But to get to Santa Cruz from where we were at, and we were in like the Livermore, Dublin area. So we were about 40 miles east of San Francisco. You drive through the Santa Cruz Mountains. I mean, it's just gorgeous. You know, here, unfortunately, in Texas, we don't know what mountains are, unfortunately.
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just a beautiful trip, and you crank the windows down. There's no power windows in it, and that's the other thing I really liked about the Chevelles is you had those quarter windows in the back. So when you roll down the window, you're rolling down your driver passenger window, and then you have these like little triangular windows in the back. So it's pretty open. You get a lot of breeze in there, and I mean it's again just a great time. Lots of great memories.
Well, one of the things I want to do with the podcast is go back to those times of, when we were kids, when we were teenagers with our first ride, and try to remember some of the smells and just that. Like driving down the road and the windows down and the radio going, and it just all kind of fits and going, man, this is great. For that moment in time, it's, man, the world is right.
Yeah.
And so when you were doing that, like a typical Saturday night during the summer, what was your favorite song playing on the radio, and why was it your favorite?
Oh, well, I will say when it comes to songs, I might be the only person in existence that doesn't have a playlist on his phone. I'm a radio guy. Mm-hmm. Whatever's playing on the radio is fine by me. But I do remember Nirvana was huge back then. And I listened to a lot of hip hop, Tupac, Biggie, like just, there was a lot of great hip hop songs. And I remember not having like the greatest speakers or stereo. I got the stereo part, but then you got to get the speakers and the amp and all that stuff, which is pretty expensive. And I remember taking my parents' house speakers, like big, huge wooden house speakers. And I shoved those things in the trunk. And let me tell you, that made all the difference in the world. But Saturday night, I just enjoyed washing the car. I took such pride in like making sure it was spotless and clean. I always, and I don't know if it was because it had forest green interior, but I always hung the little pine trees in there. And I always went with the pine smell, the green one. And it always smelled so fresh, like you're out in the forest. And I don't know if it's just because the color combination of the interior, but I just remember that smell and I enjoy that smell to this day. But it really brings back memories of being in that Chevelle, just driving it, cruising it. And, it was a cool car. So, you drive something and it's cool. It makes you feel good and it's clean and it's shiny. There's just, I don't know. There's a great feeling about it.
Yeah.
So
on my Volkswagen, I don't know if it was really considered a cool car, but it was cool to me.
Yeah.
And I took the little chrome stingers out of the muffler.
Yeah.
And I lived one block from high school.
Yeah.
And I would drive my car to high school.
Yeah.
And so I had taken the little chrome tips out, and that made a whole lot of difference in the sound of it. A lot throatier and beefier and all that kind of thing. And some girl lived down the street from me that I went to class with, and she told me one time that she could hear the car every time I started up in the morning. I didn't realize it was that loud, but it was a lot of good memories attached to the car. So yeah.
So did you modify your car at all? Did you do anything to yours?
I did not. I think it came from Germany originally. Okay. I think a serviceman bought it for use over there because it was a 64. And it had a column lock on it, an ignition column lock.
Yeah.
And those weren't standard until 66, 68. I think it's 68. Okay. Now, there were kits available that you could install that on there. But I never did do anything to it. But like you, I was
Yeah.
always polishing on it and cleaning
Yeah.
on it, and making sure it looked nice,
Yeah.
and I loved cleaning and
Yeah.
waxing the chrome wheels. And
Yeah. Right.
so yeah,
Yeah.
I had so much fun. I wished I had it back, but I don't. But
Yeah.
well, and you must have read the questions as I wrote them out and what I wanted to talk about, because man, you've hit on every point. Uh, one of the things I was going to ask about, how the experience of your first car influenced what you do today, but
Yeah.
you already touched on that. Well,
Yeah.
could you talk about that a little bit further?
Yeah. I think because it was a Chevrolet and a Chevelle, and I just truly became infatuated with the Chevelles.
Yeah.
Um, and it just evolved into Chevys across the board. And because I've always been passionate about the cars and we've owned a lot of cars, my wife and I have been together for almost 20 years. The most vehicles we've ever had at the house, I think, is like 15 or
Oh
16.
my.
And, but I would buy and sell, make money, take that money and put it into the vehicles that we own.
Mhm.
So upgrades and so forth. But even going back 20 years, I'm 46 years old now. Going back 20 years, I can't remember a time where I probably didn't have something cool to me anyway.
Mhm.
And I would buy, first generation Camaros and Novas, box Novas, and El
Mhm.
Caminos and Chevelles. And I had a perfect job too, because I would deliver hardware to homes, new home builders. And so I would drive through all these residential areas, and it got to the point where I was tired of writing notes, "Are you interested in selling your car?" that I made business cards. And you'd be surprised, persistence paid off. I would go back to these people multiple times. It'd be 6 months, it'd be a year. Other people would try and buy the same car in my town, and I just knocked on the door multiple times.
Mhm.
And this is back when you could get a Chevelle for $500
Mhm.
complete. I mean, $1,000, $1,500. And I think a lot of people just got lazy and they didn't want to put money into the car. But I would.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'd buy them and I didn't have to do anything to them. Sometimes I'd buy them and I'd fix them up. Sometimes I'd keep them for a while. But yeah, it was. I think buying that first car really just stuck with me my entire life. I mean,
Yeah.
I know this is a crazy number, and I have files and files and files of bill of sales. I've sold over 250 cars in the last 20 plus years.
Yeah.
It's a crazy number, I know, but even right now, I've got 2 vehicles for sale. Matter of fact, 3. One is on the way. I haven't even taken delivery of it yet, but I find that I specialize now in low mileage, low owner, almost mint condition trucks or C10s or
Mhm.
whatever I can get my hands on. And I'll buy them from all over the country and, sit on them a little bit longer and try and make some money off of them. So, I mean, it's helped. And that's just a hobby. That's just something I enjoy.
Yeah.
That's not part of our business or anything. So it's been good.
So was that kind of the seed, that first car, your Chevelle, was that kind
Yeah.
of the seed that sprouted and eventually morphed and grew into Texas Show Promotions?
It's yes. I think just being in cars in general, and I know I'm loyal to Chevy, but here's what I will say: I love all brands. I love all genres.
Uh-huh.
I like lowriders. I like Volkswagens. I like trucks. I like the slabs, the donks, because the thing that we all share is the passion, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what you drive or how much money you have in your car or if you built it or bought it. And I know there's like built, not bought kind of thing, but some people don't have the luxury or have the the experience to build a car, right? Some people were fortunate enough to have a welder in their hands at 12 years old and, have dad in the garage wrenching on cars. So it doesn't matter to me what you drive. I can respect that. I appreciate that. And I think we could all come together because, again, we share that passion.
Yeah.
My wife and I moved here from California. I think it was 2004, 2005. And the first year was pretty rough. I mean, I will say it was rough. And for about 10 years, I put all my automotive passion aside and built the real estate business because I needed to obviously take care of the family, and we worked on it together. And we got to the point where, okay, business is good. We've got money coming in. We bought a house. We've got, a new baby. And in 2012, I bought an '05 crew cab, and I just wanted something for the family. I was going to lower it, throw the kids in the back, nothing special. Well, I go to Good Guys a lot, and on Sundays they have All American Sunday. So as long as it's American made or powered, I should say, you can bring in your vehicle. It doesn't matter the age. Well, they have autocross out there. So I've got my oldest son and my youngest son with me, and they're like, Dad, you should autocross the truck. And I'm like,
yeah.
What? This is a crew cab. It's lowered, no suspension mods other than a lowering kit. No big sway bars, no nothing. Got these big 22-inch wheels, and it looked fun. So they're like, Dad, take the truck out. So sure enough, I take the truck out, and I was hooked. I'm just grinning ear to ear. And so we still have that truck to this day. Let's not talk about how much money I've put into the truck.
Yeah.
Because it's ridiculous. But now it's, something that the suspension, the motor, it's been changed. I mean, there's been tons of modifications to it. It's, here it's a crew cab, and people kind of joke sometimes, like, why is this guy out here with all the Camaros and Corvettes and Mustangs? But I don't want to win any races, but I'll tell you, I load that thing up 5 deep. I don't care if you're a stranger out of the the spectators. Let's go for a ride. Get yourself a helmet. And I'm giving these people a ride that they may not be able to experience, And I'm always middle of the pack. I'm never going to win, but I'm never going to be dead last either.
Yeah.
So
and you're having fun doing it. So, and the thing about, was it the long wheelbase crew cab?
So it's a short bed, but it is a longer, it's definitely a long wheelbase.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I had a crew cab dually at one time.
Oh, yeah.
And I went out when it iced over. And I tried to go out in the parking lots and do donuts and stuff like that. It was hard to get it to the back end to go out. It wouldn't do it. So I thought, hey, this is a pretty good handling machine here.
Definitely. And then, when I put, going back to why Texas Show Promoters got started, is when I put my passion on hold for those 10 years and I got myself a truck, and mind you, I came from California where, we were right next to Alameda County Fairgrounds. That is the biggest Good Guys there is. I mean, we're talking 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 hot rods, muscle cars. So we went there religiously. They had Hot August Nights in Reno, wasn't far away. They had Danville. So we were always in the car scene. I had all these friends, all these connections. Coming here, I didn't know anybody. I wasn't in the car scene for the first 10 years of being here. And when I got to looking for events, like you were saying earlier, where do you look for these car shows? Where do you find the local meat in the Friday night burger joint? There's a lot of people not advertising those. It's who you know.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, I would go to these shows. I'd find a few. I'm like, I'm going to start an Instagram page. I'm going to call it Texas Show Promoters. No logo, nothing fancy. And I just started searching Google, going on Facebook, searching Instagram, and just religiously just posting. And And it got to the point we were about 2.5 years in, and I'm like, wow, this is taken off. We've got a big following, and I can't continue to do this by myself. But how do I pay somebody when it's a free service? So I would make like stickers, and we printed up some shirts and hats. But I mean, that certainly doesn't pay the bills. And I have the luxury of having the real estate businesses, and I felt so strongly about Texas Show Promoters that I did hire somebody and would pay them out of my other business or me personally.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just about to hit 57,000 people on Instagram. I think we're just a little over 20,000 on Facebook. And having all those people come together on one social media page or the two, it allotted me to, okay, why don't we host our own car meet? Why don't we host car shows, cruises? We did TSP Slam 2 years in a row, which is Texas Show Promoters' single largest automotive meet. That's what Slam stands for. The first year, we had 2,339 vehicles show up at Texas Motor Speedway.
Wow.
The next year, we had just around 1,000 more. I think it was 33 and change. But what was so phenomenal, it was a meet. So there were no trophies. Mm-hmm. And car shows are tough because you're always going to get the people that are upset because they didn't win. Why did that guy win? So I was never like a trophy guy, car show guy. I would go just because I wanted to see the cars. Mm-hmm. I didn't care about winning a trophy or anything like that. So the car shows are tough. So the single largest automotive meet, what was so cool is it was just a gathering of auto enthusiasts. Mm-hmm. There was nobody was going for anything other than to get together and hang out. And we had lowriders there. We had, lifted trucks. We had Jeeps. We had every possible genre, from classics to hot rods to imports. Everybody came together. And that to me was so exciting, because we've all heard of Good Guys. We've heard of Hot Import Nights, and they all have a great thing, but they're a niche. They have a mm-hmm. niche, mm-hmm. Where this wasn't a niche. This was everybody coming mm-hmm. together, no matter how old you were, what you drove, what condition your car was in. Maybe it was your mom's hand-me-down 4-door Camry. If you wanted to bring that, bring it,
Well, then I'd fit in with my 2000 Toyota Tacoma pickup.
There you go. So, there wasn't a lot of stock vehicles, but it was cool to see. And we offered a ton of entertainment. I mean, we had live DJ, we had motorcycle stunt show, we had Power Wheel races for the kids. We bought a whole bunch of Power Wheels and they could race around a track. We had race simulators. We had 8th mile drags on the pit row. We had a burnout box where, if you want to sit there and roast your tires. So again, we just tried to put on a great event. And, Texas Show Promoters, I feel like we're just kind of scratching the surface because it continues to grow every day. And who knows where it'll go. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the end game is, but time will tell.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're going to have to do this again.
Yeah.
because we're running out of time here for the recording thing. So if our listeners have any questions about Texas Show Promoters and the listing of the auto events in Texas, what's the best way for them to find out more about that?
So we do have a website, but currently that website is more for merchandise. The best thing to do is go to our Facebook or Instagram, and it is just Texas Show Promoters.
Okay.
Very easy to find. We do have a YouTube channel as well. Same thing as the website. It is Texas Show Promoters. At some point in time in the future, we'll have more media teams going all over Texas, recording these events, putting them on the YouTube channel. We definitely want to get more involved. Yeah. We want to go to more events, if possible. But right now, if they want to find out more information, definitely Instagram and Facebook is the way to go. Yeah.
One more thing.
Yep.
You were telling me about the cruise that's coming up the end of this month. It's September 27th.
Yep.
Well, I don't know that I can get this podcast out in time to do that, but you're going to be back in the place of where you'll do a monthly cruise.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
good.
So we took some time off because of COVID and a lot of change stuff. But we love the monthly cruises because they're very personalized. They are exclusive because we only allow 100 vehicles to pre-register. That's it.
Yeah.
There is a fee involved because it takes a lot of time for me to coordinate, drive the route. I meet up with staff, managers. Matter of fact, that's what I did today for our cruise on the 27th. So it's more than just let's go to point A to point B, but we actually have entertainment involved, which is our first stop. We meet at a lake early Sunday morning. We drive to our entertainment spot, and then we drive to a cool lunch spot. So it's from 7 a.m. to about 2:30 in the afternoon, roughly. And people are signing up, and this will blow your mind, but they have no earthly idea what they're signing up for until the morning of. They have no earthly idea. They don't know where they're going. They don't know the entertainment spot. They don't know the lunch spot. And we email everybody 8 p.m. the night before the cruise to let them know what lake and address we're meeting at the morning of. And people absolutely love it. We've worked with Gas Monkey Garage, Speed Zone, Dallas Karting Complex, Adventure Landing. And that's just some of the fun places. And then we always find like a cool lunch spot. A lot of times the lunch spots are even automotive related. And it's been very cool. Everybody's been amazing. Always a great group. Always.
That's awesome. Awesome. I'm glad you're doing all that. That is so cool. That is so cool. Well, again, we're going to have to do this again.
Absolutely.
Again. Hung on the word again. So, Ryan, thanks for taking the time out of your schedule to be on today's episode. This was so cool. I was looking forward to hearing the story about your Chevelle in more details, and it was so good. I'm glad you shared all that.
Well, I appreciate you having me. I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. As I mentioned earlier, I love hearing the stories of people's first car, what got them into it, where they're at now in the car scene. Do they still have their first high school vehicle? So I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you.
Anything we can do to help perpetuate the automotive culture and scene, I think it's fantastic. So great job. Thank you.
And I want to see more of, the shows that I've gone to around where I live. It's mostly old guys. Yeah. But there's, and I've heard a little bit of hints that the younger ones are starting to get interested in cars, but yeah, I want to see that perpetuate, and the interest in cars continue on. Sure. And in 30 years from now, it might be people are really big into the electric cars and souping up electric cars. Yeah. Well, that's okay.
Yeah. That's okay.
As long as you can hot rod an electric car. Matter of fact, they're doing it now. I've seen the Volkswagens and all kinds of stuff that they put electric motors in there. So anyway, I appreciate the comments on that. So that's really cool. So
it is cool.
Yeah.
Love the automotive scene. It brings everybody together. I don't know that there's another group out there like it. Honestly, because there's one thing for sure. If you see a cool car, you're giving a thumbs up, you're stopping at a gas station, you're talking to that person. It breaks down all barriers. You have a cool car, we're talking. Yep. We're going to chop it up for a little bit.
A neighbor 2 doors down had his house up for sale. Yeah. And one time he had his garage door open, and I could see it was something kind of cool, but I couldn't see details.
Yeah.
Well, he had a wrecker out there, the flatbed, and it was like a 68 or 69 Cadillac Coupe de Ville convertible.
Wow.
I mean, it was a beautiful car.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I saw the car, I went dashing over to him. Hey, man, I love your car. Right. And it's a shame that I didn't do that before, but it was the car that perpetuated that. So
absolutely.
Anyway,
that'll go on forever.
Yeah, it will. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. It was so much fun, and I'm looking forward to doing this again.
Sounds great.
All right.
Likewise.
Was Jason's first ride story great or what? I trust you enjoyed it as much as I did. Be sure and check out Texas Show Promoters, his business page on Facebook. Also, you can go to his website at texasshowpromoters.com. What's coming up next on My First Ride podcast? I'm always searching for people who want to share their stories of what it was like to own their first car, truck, or motorcycle, and the fond memories associated with it. If you have fond memories of your first ride, it's time to tell them and what it meant to you. You know, the stories you can tell your kids and your grandkids. Would you be open to participating, telling your story? If yes, I would like to schedule a time where we can record a conversation. Contact me at myfirstridepodcast@gmail.com or call 972-771-7899. If you're watching this on Facebook, message me and we'll start the process of recording and sharing your story. Final thought. You may not have your first ride, but you still have the memories. It's time to share them. I'm Gary Neidert, and you've just experienced My First Ride podcast. Call me 972-771-7899. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching.